morning. How are you doing? So as a speaker, this is the best view, like having a lot of people in the audience. So I did a talk at one of the security conferences, a big room, only 5 people. Out of 5, there were, I think, 3 from WSO2. So this is a great experience. And today I'm lucky. I got sandwiched in between 2 great speakers, Sanjeeva and Rania. So I can take it a little light. Cool. This one is not working. The asked from Amila to give an introduction to the theme, the Agentic Enterprise. I'll give, based on the current context, because this is a very fast evolving space. So based on the current context, what is an Agentic Enterprise? Yeah, so basically 3 things I'm going to focus on. First thing, a little bit on the background, about the background, and then what is an Agentic Enterprise, and then how and what exactly these organizations are working on to become agentic. The background, basically, I explained what is an enterprise. So let's look at what exactly an enterprise. So this is one definition. So this is a definition of an enterprise. Enterprise is a large organization that they deliver value by coordinating with many systems as well as teams under many constraints. So that is kind of a definition of an enterprise. But whenever I enter to an enterprise, not every enterprise, but most of the enterprise, this kind of a view that I get. Yes, this is basically the feeling that we get. A lot of systems, systems that they build for a while, and then without moving, things are stagnated at one point. So that's the reality of the enterprise. Yeah, so this is, and enterprises are very complex because many systems are there, and then there are like complex processes are there, but they are changing and they are adaptive because of the business needs as well as how the markets are operating. And then, as you know, there are mergers, acquisitions are happening rapidly, new people coming, some people are leaving, so things are rapidly changing. Those are very adaptive systems. So then there are teams inside the organizations as well, and different organizations are having different team structures. There's this book called Team Topology. If you have not read it, it's a really good book to get an idea on how these teams are operating. In a typical organization, there are platform teams, and then there are like sub-teams who's focusing on specific responsibilities. And then there are enabling teams and people who's working on specific, like that. There are different teams. And these teams are interacting with each other. They are collaborating on certain stuff. And then some teams are providing certain capabilities as a service. And then some people are facilitating certain capabilities as well. So depending on the communication structure and the systems are organized, there's something called Conway law, that if an organization is structuring the communication structure, if an organization is structuring the systems based on the communication structure, people are getting a lot of value out of it. So that's where the team topologies are connected to how enterprises are operating. So then Sanjeev had a picture, so I'm going to reuse it and then explain what's really happening inside these enterprises. So enterprises are buying these system of record layers. So system of record layers are like CRM systems, HRM, those kind of systems they buy and then use it to get the core or the foundational capabilities to the organization. So once they do that, sometimes they feel these core capabilities are not enough to fulfill the requirements, so they buy add-ons from the same same organization. As an example, if somebody is using Salesforce, they might buy add-ons from Salesforce to fulfill the requirements. But then again, if all these different enterprises are using the same software that they bought, they can't find a differentiator. As well as sometimes this package software doesn't provide all the capabilities these organizations are required, so they start building stuff on top of that. So that is where Sanjeeva highlighted our role inside these enterprises. So they are using tools, and we are companies like us, we provide these tools to build these add-ons on top of the system of record layers that they are purchasing. So that is happening inside the enterprise. With that, there are different architecture concepts are there, but this is a reference architecture, and typically how these enterprises have built these architecture concepts. So you can see the system of record layers, and then some of the system of record layers can be running inside the organization, but today most of the system of records are SaaS offerings that they subscribe for that SaaS and use it as a capability inside the organization. And then other components that you can see, it's really familiar for us because these are the things that we are providing for our customers, and there are channels that the end users are accessing these capabilities, and inside the enterprise, they build these capabilities using these technologies within the organization. And this is a typical reference architecture most of the enterprises are following. So then this, before agentic shift, there are different AI capabilities used within the organizations. If you can remember, there's an era that machine learning was very popular, and people use those kind of technologies to do reasoning, and different teams within organizations started using this stuff. It is not completely new, and the humans were in the loop in most cases, and we used it as a supportive system to get certain tasks done, and that was happening inside the larger enterprises in a way. But then again, now it is moving to the next level about an agentic enterprise. So what is the difference? Because if these technologies were there within the organization, what's the big shift happen within the agentic enterprise? So that's basically like using these autonomous AI agents to do certain stuff, like equal to human. They are working inside the organization, and then we treat them as first-class citizens to sense, decide, and act across systems within the organization. So it is happening in two phases. I'll get in detail. This is basically what an agentic enterprise in definition. So this is a priority for CIOs as well. Every CIO is focusing on how they can bring these agentic concepts into the organization, and then they have another mandate to reduce the cost by using AI, and every CIO is focusing on that. That's where the agentic enterprise has become a very important concept within the industry. So then the thing is, you can bring these capabilities, but there should be value, right? Because at the end of the day, they have to answer to their reporting structure and stakeholders of these companies who's invested and who has responsibilities. So they have to answer and then deliver values. It's about like not just bringing AI into the enterprise, it's about how you can have a meaningful AI inside the organization. By the way, these are not AI generated, hand-drawn images. So, so then so they are looking at how we can bring ROI, and then how you can have efficiency, and then how they can have optimization using these technologies where these CIOs are mainly focusing on. Since I spoke about drawing, if you like to draw, and if you have an iPad, there's a really nice software called Procreate. You can use it to draw these kind of diagrams. A free ad for Procreate. Okay. So as I said, the AI adoption happening in two ways. One, internally, and externally. Let's take WSO2 as an example. So we are doing the same thing, right? We have number of agents written in different areas. In the sales side, there are some agents providing information about when a lead comes, what kind of a lead, and then their background, so on and so forth. And in the support side, there are a lot of agents developed as well to optimize our operations. That is the internal transformation, and every organization, they are doing this as well, where whenever they find there's a opportunity to use these agents, they are building those agents to optimize the operations and then reduce cost. That's the internal transformation happening with agents. And then the externally. So in our case, we have this theme called AI for Code and Code for AI. What we are doing, providing these capabilities to our customers, right, or the users who's using WSO2 products. Same thing happening with these enterprises as well. They are building these capabilities for their customers, how they can leverage these agentic capabilities and get their experiences easy, as well as optimize their usage on the capabilities that they are using from this organization. So this is what's happening internally and externally, and these teams are mainly focusing on that. Then again, there are a lot of stats. There are initiatives. People are working on these projects and products, but then again, limited number of things are getting into production. So three main buckets. One, there are cultural, people aspect of challenges these organizations are facing. And then there are process and compliance related challenges these organizations are facing. And then the technology related challenges these organizations are facing. That's why the number of agents and agentic applications getting into production is low. Because as I explained, enterprises are really complex. Because of that complexity, these teams are facing really challenges to get these things into production. Some of these challenges I have listed here in different scales. So those are the challenges these organizations are facing. But then again, good thing, most of these enterprises, they have the APIs, because API management came around 2011, 2012, managed APIs. So they already have the APIs. And then they have data, because there are system of record, and then they created different type of data lakes, data fabrics. Data is available. And they have people as well who can understand, who can learn and build these applications. So that's a good thing. So these enterprises are having agentic teams. As I explained earlier, the team structures can be differ. But in most cases, from our experience, what we have identified, this is a common setup most of these organizations are having. They have a lead or an AI strategist who owns the strategy. And then under that person, there's a steering committee who's deciding what type of capabilities that we are bringing. And there's an enabling team working on two things, like teaching people on the technology side, as well as bringing the other teams aware about the stuff that they are doing. So there's a enablement team. Under that, there are many development teams working on different aspects that they have to focus on. And then there's a platform team as well, who's focusing on how they can run this application. So this is a typical structure that we have seen within most of these enterprises. And these lead or the strategists are under huge pressure, because now CIOs, they have quite the responsibility for these strategies to deliver. So I'll give you one example. One of the strategists, she started working on this stuff for a year or so, And then, like other people, she started going to conferences and started learning these things and mapping to the organization needs and try to implement stuff. But after a year, nothing has delivered in production. So similarly, we have seen a lot of strategists are really under pressure because the way or the face of the CIOs are looking at these applications are not delivering. So that's the reality, but this is kind of example of how these teams are organized. And then these enterprises are looking at four-phase approach to bring this stuff into production. They start with pilots, like normally most of the other applications are working on. And then within a domain or a department, they are trying to implement these capabilities, and then they are going cross-functional and getting into the enterprise-wide, how they can share these capabilities, how they share data, and bring it enterprise-wide. So this is a typical roadmap that these organizations are following. Then to bring these things, you need an enterprise architecture, and there are different styles that we have seen. So first thing is completely outsourced, that these Gen AI applications are building outside the enterprise architecture because it's easy to do that way because you are not touching the existing stuff and you are trying to build it as a greenfield project or a product. So that's a common approach that we have seen within this organization. In some cases, once they start doing that, they realize, hey, this is completely isolated and we can't access the data, we can't give the full capabilities these agentic applications can provide. So they start linking those applications to the enterprise architecture. That's the second thing. I named it as a sidecar pattern. But the ideal way of doing it is basically bringing these Gen AI applications into the enterprise architecture. Some of the organizations are doing it, but then again, it's not easy because of the complexity that they have in the current architecture as well as the limitations that they are seeing. But our recommendation always go for the third pattern and then bring the enterprise architecture within the into the enterprise Gen AI applications into the enterprise architecture. Even when Rania did this her session at Barcelona, she clearly explained why and how it is important. Probably she might iterate it today as well. Then when it comes to this agentic architecture, there are two parts to that. There's the internal architecture and the external architecture. So if you can remember these microservices, when microservices came into the picture, everybody was focusing on the internal architecture of microservices. But then again, when 100, 200 microservices started floating inside the organization, they started looking at the outer architecture. Same thing happening in this world as well. For the agents, there's an internal architecture with the necessary things need to build an agent. But then again, there are many, when it comes to many agents within the organization, you need an external architecture. One, how you orchestrate it, and then how you govern it, how you can add quality of services, and then how you can bring some of the concepts like composability, reliability. All these things are required to make a production grade or enterprise grade agentic platform. So this external architecture is pretty important when it comes to becoming an agentic enterprise. Then, if you can remember the the traditional architecture, it has evolved a lot. Again, this is the current context. The new components are added to the current architecture to facilitate this. And most of these things you are familiar, like the AI gateways, MCP hubs, and agent identities. All these kind of capabilities need to bring to the enterprise architecture to facilitate and have a proper governed way of building these applications within the enterprise. So it has evolved a lot and changing day by day as well. Then my favorite topic. So still the concepts like domain-driven design can apply for these agentic enterprise as well. That's where things like cell-based architecture can be utilized to take these things into the next level, because you can kind of have proper segmentation, organize these capabilities within the enterprise by using cells, and then have a proper enterprise architecture approach to build these applications. So still, these things are valid, and then domain-driven design type of concepts are a matter as well. Because people think you can kind of completely ignore the stuff that we did earlier and then try to build these things. But we can use some of the best practices that we already used and using inside the enterprises. So this is one example. That's why I brought CBA, and then how it can relate it to an agentic architecture as well. So then to become an agentic enterprise, there are two things. One is they should have an adaptable architecture, because this domain is changing, evolving day by day. We don't know what will happen on next Monday. Every weekend, something new coming. So the architecture should be able to change quickly. So that's a fundamental requirement that we have. Second thing is the technology stack. Again, it should evolve and it should be more futuristic. So those two things have to be there for an organization to become agentic. So then that's where the opportunity that we have. Now, if you can remember the previous architecture, the reference architecture, all these components required to become agentic, we are providing through the products that you guys are working on, and we have released, and we are still working on certain things. As example, the agent manager, still we are working on it, and these things will fulfill all the requirements that an enterprise required to become agentic. So that is our opportunity that we have in this space. So we can become the open source and SaaS technology partner for an enterprise to become agentic, and by providing the technology as well as the architecture, because one thing that I highlighted, they need two things. One, the adaptable architecture. Second thing is the technology. So as a technology company, we can provide that for these organizations by giving the current capabilities that we have, as well as the new things that we are working on and planning to release in the near future. So it's up to us, and we can do that. And my ask is, let's make it happen. As Sanjeeva said, we are one team. So our focus should be that how we can help these organizations. So engineering can provide these capabilities, robust capabilities, and then build it for enterprise needs. And then the other teams like the sales engineering team can help these organizations to bring our technology inside the enterprise, as well as how they can architect these things properly. And then the support or the customer success team can help them to run these things in production grade. And then if there are any problems that they face, we can help them to stay steady as deliver these capabilities internally as well as externally to their customers as well. So that's a quick introduction. I didn't get into details because the next speaker will get into detail, and Rania will explain in detail about some of these concepts. So I thought of keep it at that level. So since I finished early, if there are any questions, happy to answer any question that you have.
Hi, Asanka. So you mentioned adaptable architectures and adaptable enterprises, right? Now, with the agentic age, I think that adaptability has increased quite a bit. It's accelerated. But with reference to your first picture where you showed, what we see when we walk into an enterprise, that's the reality, right? Like we speak to CIOs, solutions engineering team, speaks to IT, heads of IT, and that resistance to adapt is very real. So as that pace increases in the current era, how do we, what supports can we provide our customers to change that attitude and also work within their compliance and process requirements to be able to adapt at that scale?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question. So we had the same challenge when it comes to the digital transformation era, right? Like when we try to apply these things to organizations, same resistance was there. And then things were not moving the phase that we try to apply these things. So I believe it's more of a leadership thing within the organization. And if you can remember, we used to create these digital steering committees by bringing relevant stakeholders in different parts, and then use steering committees to make decisions and then brought it to different teams. I think that is one thing that the leadership should align with the strategy, timeline, and then what they are planning to deliver. So that's the first thing. Then number two, I think the education, right? Like keep on educating about the value that they can bring, and sometimes the resistance coming with job security as well. That is something we saw when it comes to these digital transformation projects. So how we can ensure the current team is part of the new initiative, so that will make sure everybody will support with that particular initiative and then take it to forward. And the technology also playing a role. Sometimes the technology stack might be not ready to bring the challenge, so that's where the correct technology should be brought in. Again, there's no kind of silver bullets, right? It can be different paths that they can take and then bring the correct technology to the organization. So those are few things that we can do to kind of overcome this situation. Hope Thanks. I answered the question. I can take one more question if there are any other questions.
So I have one for you. This is related to that last slide you had about cell-based architecture and things like that. So if you look at how architecture evolves, there is also a part in there how that applies to the organization structure, which is what domain-driven design and all of that is about. So with the agentic movement that's happening right now, I feel as we move on with this, there might be changes in how the teams approach building software as well. Do you feel that there might be also changes to these structures and how these type of architectures would also sort of evolve from there?
Yeah, so it's a really good question, not only agentic stuff. So these patterns, right? Like there are patterns, and then you can't just take it and then apply. You have to put the pattern plus the context, and then create a new thing out of it that is relevant for the organization. And you need to consider what is relevant and what are the areas that we can apply these changes, and what are the correct reference architecture that you can use. All these things need to consider. Again, end of the day, you have to deliver value, right? That's why, even when microservices came, everybody was trying to convert everything to microservices. But then again, is that the correct way? When service mesh came, like people always like try to use that. And as Sanjeeva said, like just without jumping to these buzzwords and then things quickly, analyze it properly, figure out what is relevant for the organization, and then applying it at the necessary places is what we need to do. That's the role of an architect, right? Not just copy it from somewhere. Look at what exactly need to apply for their organization and pick the correct thing. And that's where like there are architecture committees and then making these decisions by considering many aspects, not only one. I don't know whether I answered your question, but some of these foundational stuff are still valid. And that's where, like, as a technology company, we have a massive opportunity because we are providing this foundational stuff with the new cool stuff. So foundational stuff are still needed. The integrations, API, identity, all these things that we are doing. And then top of that, we are bringing this new shiny stuff. So that's kind of this tip of the iceberg, right? And there's a lot underneath. And we are bringing those underneath stuff as well. So I think, as I said, like it's a very evolving space. The advice for the organizations to bring the necessary stuff carefully to the organization. End of the day, you have to deliver value. I know people like to play with technology, but you have to find the kind of the middle path and act based on that. I have 1 minute. If there are one more question, I can take one more question if there are any questions. No? Okay. Thank you very much. Hopefully it was helpful to understand the agentic enterprise. Thank you very much.